At the Food Warehouse, we guarantee the freshest fruit and veg at the best prices. And with new arriving daily, our grocery lines are as good as it gets. So take a fresh look at the Food Warehouse at Strath Village.
This is Win News Gippsland.
Tonight, strong indications that Peter McGauran is preparing to quit politics. Anger at a graphic anti-abortion pamphlet drop. Lanigan's Bridge on the verge of reopening. Good evening. Also tonight, carers and pensioners bonuses guaranteed by the federal government. Former Federal Agriculture Minister and long-time member for Gippsland, Peter McGauran, has given his strongest indication yet that his days in Parliament are numbered. Mr McGauran has confirmed he is discussing his future with his family and his departure to leave the seat of Gippsland subject to a June by-election.
On the eve of last year's federal election, the ALP's Jane Rowe said she suspected a change of power may see the former Agriculture Minister take his bat and ball and go home.
I'd have to ask the question of Peter that's been asked of John Howard in the past. If a Rudd Labor government gets in and Peter's on the opposition benches, will he stay there for the 3 years?
Mr McGauran was quick to stamp out any speculation he might not go the distance.
Barring the unforeseen, I'm committed to serving out my term.
But talk of an imminent departure has reared again. Mr McGauran releasing a statement saying he's discussing his future with family and a number of constituents. Ms Rose says she's surprised.
I did ask prior to the election for him to confirm on air and on Win TV whether he would. He said he would, so I'm quite surprised again at the latest rumours.
It's believed there's a flurry of activity behind the scenes as parties look to identify potential by-election candidates. Former Nationals candidates Darren Chester and Chris Nixon are believed to be in the front running. After making up some ground against the Nationals in the last election, the unsuccessful ALP candidate says she'd jump at the chance to represent the people of Gippsland.
Look, I'm ready to run for a by-election if the party chooses me to be their representative, and I look forward to talking to the people of Gippsland during that by-election if there is one.
Nick Butler, Win News.
Police have located a Latrobe Valley couple that have been missing since last week. 17-year-old Carolyn Watson and 23-year-old Julian Buckwald contacted family saying they were at a property at Buchan. The circumstances surrounding the couple's disappearance still unclear. A group that's distributing a graphic anti-abortion pamphlet has defended its decision to use explicit photos of aborted fetuses. The hand-delivered pamphlet has sparked anger across regional Victoria, but the Tell the Truth coalition says its hard-hitting approach is justified.
Steve Bendel was horrified when he opened the anti-abortion pamphlet.
Pretty much when I opened it, some of the most disgusting and graphic images I think I've ever seen.
Mr Bendel has just been through an abortion.
It's brought up memories that I not that I've neglected them or pushed them away, it's just that I don't need to be reminded by somebody else.
That's not our intention to hurt anyone, but the reality is that children are being killed by abortion, and people don't realise the grisly nature of it.
The Tell the Truth coalition says the campaign will continue.
They're real babies, they're real lives, and they would have liked to live.
I am aware of what goes on, I just don't need to have it smashed in my or put in my face like that.
The campaign has outraged many in communities across Gippsland, Bendigo and Ballarat. Many horrified the envelope could have been opened by a child.
Well, we did try to cover 4 children opening the envelope by putting it in a sealed envelope with a warning on it.
These images are explicit and disturbing in some way. And now, to anybody that has gone through that, whether it be miscarriages, whether it be abortions, whether it be their choice or a medical procedure, it's going to be twice as damaging for them, and they do not need this sort of stuff brought into their house.
Brooke Van Newton, Win News.
The federal government has guaranteed that carers and pensioners will not be stripped of their bonuses. Speculation surfaced last week that the payments would be stopped after the government failed to confirm whether the bonuses would remain in the federal budget. Last night, Prime Minister Rudd confirmed that carers will keep their $1,600 annual bonus and pensioners their $500 bonus. Parliament has also approved increased utilities allowances for almost 3 million seniors and pensioners. Repair work on Lanigan's Bridge is just days away from being completed after an 8-month process. The new structure will bring relief to Coongullah residents who have been living with only one route in and out of town.
As workers added the finishing touches today, the new Lanigan's Bridge barely resembled the dishevelled wreck that was ravaged by floods in June last year. The Wellington Shire says repairing the bridge has been a job well done.
We projected that it would be finished this month, and it will be finished. So I would say next week sometime it'll be open for business.
Coongullah residents have been counting down the days.
I'm sure the people in Coongullah will be very, very pleased about it. Having to do the detour every day if you're working in Hayfield or got to go into Traralgon.
And it wasn't just the inconvenience of added travel time that was irking the locals. There was a fear that bushfires could have caused residents to be trapped in the town.
Immediately after the flood, the only way out was via Manson's Bridge, so you basically almost had to go into Newry. Now, with this done, that'll certainly cut that out.
Despite the bridge looking strong and sturdy, the Shire is asking for residents to remain patient for just a few more days.
Well, there's the entry guardrail to do, the safety bits and pieces like the stopping line and give way signs and all the other signage that needs to go with it.
The bigger, stronger Lanigan's Bridge will be ready for traffic early next week. The region's other flood recovery projects will continue over the coming months. Nick Butler, Win News.
2 water sampling areas in Gippsland have failed quality tests. The annual report into drinking water quality in Victoria found higher than acceptable levels of E. coli in water samples taken at Wilson's Promontory and Nicholson. Bushfires, drought and floods caused water quality problems last financial year, particularly in Gippsland. E. coli contamination of water supplies can cause gastroenteritis. The sister-in-law of Thomas Towers says she and her family are fearing for their lives following media comments from Thomas's father, Graham. Diane Taylor is pleading for the Mildura community not to judge them, saying their heart goes out to the Cardross crash victims' families.
Earlier today, lawyers for Thomas Towers fronted court in Melbourne, arguing Towers should not be sentenced in Mildura. Robert Richter QC claimed a Mildura hearing would be an unnecessary burden on counsel, and that I don't fancy walking into court and being spat on.
We're in the court, so he's not going to walk around the streets, so I don't know when would spit at him.
There's fears holding the sentencing in Melbourne would be another emotional and financial burden the families could not afford to bear.
They need to be with their families, they need to be in the community where this began, and they need to see it finished here, as I've already said.
A decision on where the sentencing will be handed down will be made tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, controversial comments made by Graham Towers in support of his son has left other family members fearing for their lives.
My husband and our children have all been moved through death threats and that because of this accident. Now we're all back frightened again.
Diane Taylor has made an emotional plea on behalf of the extended Towers family to the Mildura community, saying they are sorry.
We'd all just like everybody in Mildura and everywhere else to know that Dad's speaking on behalf of himself from a father's point of view.
Hannah Ford, Win News.
Global warming experts are warning Australia's scientists have a big task on their hands helping the nation adjust to climate change. While acknowledging the Kyoto Protocol is a good first step, they say lifestyle changes are the key.
Combating climate change will be one of our biggest challenges. We have to not only reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, but we also have to adapt to more extreme weather conditions.
Both those things require a scientific underpinning. So we're identifying the science that needs to be done so the Australian community can meet its challenges.
At this week's forum, scientists are learning we need better observation of weather and better weather predictions, decades or even centuries into the future.
What's happening in the east coast of Australia? Will tropical cyclones become more severe? You need to understand how the climate system responds to warming to answer those questions.
Criticism of the Kyoto Protocol as a meaningless document dismissed.
It's certainly not going to solve the climate change problem, but we have to start somewhere, and if we don't take the first step, we'll never take subsequent steps.
The experts say there's plenty we can do here in Canberra to help. Our obsession with cars to get to and from work could come back to bite us.
Public transport, particularly in a city like Canberra, must play an important role. So the changes are lifestyle changes.
The forum concludes tomorrow. Glenn Osborne, Win News.
Coming up on Win News, the Grand Prix rally, motors around regional Victoria and an alarming increase in melanoma. In business news, the Chief Executive Officer of Win Corporation, Win Television's parent company, has resigned after 4 years at the helm. George Papadopoulos joined the company in 1998 and developed a thorough knowledge of the network's operations before being appointed CEO in 2004. The company has yet to announce his replacement. Regional sporting bodies have welcomed the federal government plan to curb binge drinking. Under the strategy, the Rudd government may pull public funding to groups that do not address the problem.
The federal government's $53 million national binge drinking strategy will tackle the problem in the wider community. Sporting codes may be targeted in the campaign, but sporting representatives say it's about time something was done.
Acknowledge that there's a problem there to be solved. Good on them for having a go.
At a regional level, organisations point out binge drinking is not unique to sport. Findings released by the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare found that alcohol was the most common substance of addiction in the nation. Sporting organisations say the campaign should have a wider focus.
I'd say there'd be a fair percentage of the kids out on the weekends that don't even play sport, aren't even involved in a sporting body.
Local government, state, federal government and the sporting community need to work together on the issue. It's not going to be singularly managed and moderated if there's not a whole community approach.
Many clubs have already implemented measures, such as the Good Sports program, to address binge drinking, and say the latest initiative duplicates existing standards. Representatives also point out that many regional clubs are largely run on alcohol revenue from their bars. They say the clubs that will suffer are the ones who aren't currently abiding by the standards. Soraya Lenny, Win News.
New figures from the Cancer Council show the number of Victorians affected by melanoma is at a record level. Melanomas have overtaken lung cancer and are now the fourth most commonly diagnosed cancer.
In 2005, 245 Victorians died from melanoma. Melanoma diagnoses have risen to fourth place behind prostate, bowel and breast cancer. Many of those heeding the SunSmart message have been touched by the disease.
It's very important, as my husband died of melanoma when he was 34 years old, so now our family's extra careful.
My old man's had melanomas cut out, my aunties. I think working out in the sun a lot, there's a lot of people who are going to end up that way if they don't protect themselves.
Parents are being urged to be cautious amid a burst of searing temperatures.
We put sunscreen on them before they go to kinder and school and make sure they've got the sunwise hats and sunwise rashy tops.
With research showing around 360,000 Victorian adults get sunburnt every summer weekend, the message of slip, slop and slap is aimed at everyone.
It might not look cool, but it definitely helps in the long run, and just things like sitting in the shade when you're not in the water.
On average, 6 Victorians are diagnosed with a melanoma every week, and experts say it's not just the younger generation.
Perhaps younger people are more involved in outdoor sports and things. And perhaps maybe are a little less likely to protect themselves. But it's interesting that the older people are the ones that perhaps are not having a good survival rate.
Doctors are advising anyone with a spot that has changed colour or shape to get it checked by a GP. Jonathan Kendall, Win News.
Police confiscated 2 cars under Hoon legislation in Traralgon Saturday night. The cars were caught doing burnouts in the town's new multi-storey car park. Independent member for Gippsland East Craig Ingram has received widespread support for his container deposit refund program. Mr Ingram says representatives from all the major parties joined yesterday's rally in Melbourne. And primary schools across the region are being urged to register for Walk Safely to School Day on May 2. The event aims to promote a lifestyle which is healthy and good for the environment. Formula One excitement is reaching fever pitch across regional Victoria as a Grand Prix rally makes its way around the state. About 20 cars driven by racing enthusiasts make up the travelling motor show, which is now gearing up for the big race in Melbourne on the weekend.
They may not be the professionals taking to the Grand Prix circuit, but they still have the same need for speed. The drivers tore up the skid pan at Shepparton's Decker complex and later opened up the engines along an airport runway.
Well, we're an official support event of the Australian Grand Prix. The cars will be travelling. It's basically a travelling motor show, promoting the Grand Prix as well as giving the competitors a chance to use their cars as they were intended.
Porsches, Mustangs, Clubmans and GTRs were all on show, but it seems they're not just boys' toys. The girls aren't afraid to drive full throttle either.
I like to try and beat the boys, but a lot of these guys are really good, so I have something to aim for and something to beat them.
The rally has made its way from Adelaide to Mildura and Shepparton and will make a quick stopover in Ballarat. On Saturday, the drivers will get to live the dream and complete a circuit of Albert Park.
Machines such as these are just such a buzz to take to their fullest capacity out on a racetrack or a motorcarna event.
In the 1,000 metre sprints, drivers push their cars to up to 260 kilometres per hour, but on public roads it's a different story.
No, they have to keep within the speed limit. There's no racing on the open road.
Catherine Sweeney, Win News.
Time now for sport. Gareth Hall.
Yes, thank you, Dennis. Good evening. Coming up tonight, the North Gippsland Football and Netball League prepares to lace up the boots, and Peter Giles proves he has the Midas touch. North Gippsland Football Netball League and team officials will meet for the first time this year in Rosedale tonight. The state of the grounds and the inclusion of the Woodside Football Club are among the items on the agenda.
There's just 24 days until the opening bounce of the North Gippsland Football Netball League season. The April 5 Round 1 will, among other things, see the Woodside Football Club make its North Gippsland debut.
We've got a new club coming into the competition which will make 11 teams for our league, so they're all excited and look like they'll certainly have the numbers to fill all the sides.
After a couple of attempts to join the North Gippsland League, the move has finally come to fruition. The Woodside players won't be the only new faces in the league, with 4 new presidents and a number of new coaches. Among them, former Shepparton United coach Steve Hazelman, who's taken the helm at Gormandale. His decision to join the Tigers is helping attract a long list of new recruits.
That'll certainly be an injection of a lot of talent in the league, and most probably very good for their club. And I think, the better the players, well, the better the competition all round, usually.
Gormandale is among the early flag favourites, but it'll have to beat the reigning champion.
Hayfield, yes. I had a chat to Rod Tatterson a couple of weeks ago, and he said he thinks things are looking pretty good, so I'm pretty sure they'll be doing their best to try and put it 2 in a row. 4
Sunday games scheduled in a bid to attract bigger crowds will also highlight the 2008 season. Meanwhile, league and club officials will meet tonight to discuss the state of the league's 11 playing grounds. Brooke Van Newton, Win News.
Moe South greyhound trainer and breeder Peter Giles is continuing to prove he has the Midas touch. The racing stalwart has started a breeding lineage that is destined to take the tracks by storm next year.
At 9 years of age, Flood Fawn is one of the more senior greyhounds in the Giles kennel. The stately dishlicker, who notched up 39 wins from more than 100 starts, has had 4 litters, with her daughters now having pups of their own.
She was a great race bitch, and she's proved a very successful sire, as well as having Flashing Floods. She's thrown 2 other group winners and lots of good race dogs.
Flashing Floods has just whelped a litter of 8, sired by Brett Lee, worth an estimated minimum of $20,000 a pup. But Peter isn't worried that he sold such a precious greyhound, with these 2 likely to be just as profitable.
We've got a little bitch called Black Chantelli, who was by Brett Lee out of Flood Fawn, and her first litter are about 10 months old now, so we'll have our fingers crossed for them.
Peter's own career is one of the most revered in circles, and it could get an even bigger boost. 2 of his dogs, Winoki and Paddy's Flame, have qualified for the semi-finals of the Sydney Easter egg worth $130,000. Peter says there's no real secret to his success other than a tight-knit family that helps him every step of the way.
I think we've just got the right breed and hard work and a lot of travelling, placing the dogs in their right races and getting the right dogs. That's the most important thing.
Anita Samet, Win News.
Some of the fastest off-road motorcycle riders in the world will line up against Australia's elite at Warragul next month. West Gippsland has been chosen to host the Australian 4-day enduro. Touch This has won through to the Traralgon Touch Association Grand Final in spectacular fashion. It defeated Average Joe's by a single try in last night's preliminary final. And Gippsland's pistol shooters have scooped the pool at the state titles in Yakandanda, Murbu North, Lucas Finken, Mafra's Christian Boyle and Sales Colin Coomer are among those to bag medals. There we are, that's sport, Dennis.
Thank you, Gareth. After the break, we'll see what the weather's doing with Jacqueline Taylor and On Your Bikes.
Come and see all the big brands at the Food Warehouse. Get the big name brands are here, up to 30% off. What more could you ask for?
So, take a fresh look at the Food Warehouse at Strathville.
Good evening. It's been another picture-perfect day across Gippsland with fine conditions, as you can see in this shot overlooking Wilson's Prom. Across Victoria, Mildura was the hottest in the state today with 39 degrees. This was due to temperatures across the north of the state rising up to 10 degrees higher than the south. Here in Gippsland today, Wonthaggi was 27, so was Traralgon. It was 21 degrees for Wilson's Prom. Omeo had a top of 26 today. Sowell reached 25, so did Bairnsdale. Lakes Entrance was 22 and Orbost was mild with 24. To the forecast. Once the early morning fog patch is clear, we'll have another mostly sunny day. The northeast to northwesterly winds will make the day feel quite warm as well. Tomorrow's top temperatures, 35 degrees for Wonthaggi, Traralgon should be high with 36, 31 for both Bairnsdale and Orbost. In Melbourne tomorrow, patches of very low level cloud clearing and warming up to 36. Looking at the coast report, at 2:30 this afternoon at Lakes Entrance, the bar was calm. The next low tide at Western Port will be 10:33 tomorrow morning. Looking ahead for West and South Gippsland, remaining fine and dry on Friday with 37, but a cool change will see some relief at night. The weekend follows with plenty of sunshine. Saturday is going for a mild 27, but the mercury should rise on Sunday to 34. Now to the Latrobe Valley, it's going to heat right up for the next few more days. A scorcher on Friday with 38, Saturday 34, and Sunday is expecting to climb to 36. And blue skies prevailing over East Gippsland for the next several days. Friday should rise to a very warm 37, set for a high of 28 on Saturday, while Sunday looks to be warmer with 32 degrees. Well, Dennis, a high to very high fire danger tomorrow.
Jacqueline, thank you. Finally tonight, Morwell Park Primary School's inaugural Ride to School Day saw hundreds of pedal-pushing pupils hit the roads on their bikes. Police were on hand to give youngsters some road safety and bike education tips before the kids saddled up and took to the track. Bikes and scooters were dressed to impress as children got into the spirit of the day, which encourages primary school pupils to consider some healthier and environmentally friendly methods of transport. And that's how we saw news in the region today. Headlines are at wintv.com.au. Thanks for watching, Win, and good night.
Good night.
This has been a Win News presentation from Win Television, Australia's largest commercial television network.